hospital visitor.
I was 3 months into night shift at a hospice wing when I had my first encounter. It was the kind of slow night where the clocks seemed to stall, monitors beeped like metronomes, and the fluorescent lights hummed. I went to check on room 214, where an elderly man had been toughing it out for weeks. The bed looked empty. I chalked it up to nurse's rotation and left to finish paperwork. Half an hour later, an orderly burst in, white-faced. He said an elderly patient had been found wandering the halls asking for his wife. We checked the footage. On camera, I walked into room 214 alone, stopped, stared at the bed, and then walked back out. But for 2 seconds, the footage showed a thin, dark silhouette standing at the foot of the bed. No outline of legs, just a top-heavy shadow like someone had been swallowed by a coat. The audio picked up something else. A breath that didn't belong to me. A long, wet exhale that synced with a bent head turning toward the camera. The older nurses told me about the man in 214. He'd died there years ago after wandering the wing. At 3 a.m., calling for his late wife. Patients started to whisper that sometimes, when you chart at night, you see him sitting in the chair by the window staring out like he's waiting for someone to come through the door. I began to see flashes on security monitors. A shape that shouldn't be there in an empty corridor. The reflection of someone in a stainless steel bed rail that vanishes when you turn to look. One night I felt something sit on the end of my bed, heavy enough to bend the mattress springs. No voice, just the echo of footsteps down the hall, and a faint, old-fashioned perfume that smelled like the antiseptic sweet smell of dried roses. I quit 2 weeks later because every time the clock hit 3 a.m., my phone vibrated with a missed call from a number that didn't exist.
The childhood bedroom.
I moved back into my parents' house after my mom died to sort things out. The first few nights were fine. Familiar creaks the old house settling, until the third night. I woke to the sound of a small plastic toy skittering across hardwood. At first I assumed my little cousin had left something behind, but the house was empty. I found a teddy bear in the hallway, right side up and facing the stairs. Eben Togi D left it in a box in the attic. That's when I started seeing her, at 2:48 a.m. She stood at the foot of my bed. A little girl, maybe 5, hair limp and pale as milk, wearing a dress that looked like it belonged to another century. She didn't move like the living do. She moved like a memory being her head tilted, eyes hollow and wet, rimmed in grey. When I dared to speak, she opened her lips and mouthed something I couldn't hear it. But when I got out of bed to follow her, she drifted down the hall and vanished through the dining room wall. The wallpaper there still had a faint, scuffed outline like someone had been rubbed against it for years. I dug through town records and found a census entry. A girl named Elsie, born in 1912, died of a fever in my house in 1917. A photograph in the historical archive showed a little girl wearing the same style of dress. After that, the house got worse. Doors slammed when no wind blew. My childhood drawings reappeared pinned to the refrigerator with pins I didn't own. Once, while crying alone at the kitchen table, I felt something cold press at the back of my neck, like a small hand. I left with whatever I could carry that night. A week later, my dad sent a video. The front door camera had captured the outline of a little girl, standing on the porch at 3:30 a.m., watching the empty driveway, until he turned the porch light on. Then she smiled straight at the lens and stepped backward into the dark, like the house swallowed her whole.
My upstairs neighbor doesn't exist.
I moved into a cheap apartment 3 months ago. Top floor. No one above me. At least, that's what the landlord said. The first night, I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging, back and forth across the ceiling. I texted the landlord. "Hey, I think someone's in the unit above me," he replied almost instantly. "There's no unit above you." I laughed it off. Old buildings make noise, but it didn't stop. Every night at exactly 2:30 a.m., the footsteps would start. Same pattern, same pacing, like someone walking in circles. Right above my bed. After a week, I couldn't take it anymore. I went outside and looked up. 3 floors. My apartment was the top. No windows above me. No balcony. Just the roof. The next day, I bought a ladder from a hardware store and waited. 2:30 a.m. The footsteps started again. I climbed up to the roof, heart pounding. When I got up there, nothing. Just empty space. And silence. Then a loud step. Right behind me. He spun around, still nothing. But the sound was right there, like someone was standing inches away. Then he felt Italiano, a breath on the back of my neck. I ran downstairs, slammed the door, and packed a bag. The next morning, I confronted the landlord in person. He looked pale when I mentioned the footsteps. Then he said, "You weren't supposed to hear that." I froze. "What do you mean?" He sighed and pulled out an old newspaper clipping. Headline: "Tenant dies after weeks of complaints about footsteps above. Found alone in top floor unit." Date: 1997. Same apartment. Same unit. Same time. 2:13 a.m. I felt sick. "Did anyone ever check the roof?" I asked. The landlord shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "They checked the ceiling." I frowned. "What?" He swallowed. "They found footprints on the inside."
The emergency alert wasn't a test.
Last night, everyone in my town got an emergency alert. Not unusual. We get tornado warnings all the time, but this one was different. No alarm sound. Just a vibration. The message read, "Do not look outside. Do not respond to voices. Lock all doors." That was it. No explanation. No weather warning. Just that. I checked social media. Everyone was posting screenshots. Confused. Freaked out. Then the power went out. Pitch black. A few minutes passed. Then I heard it. Knocking. 3 slow knocks on my front door. I froze. Then a voice. My mom's voice. "Hey, honey, it's me." Opened the door. My stomach dropped. My mom died 2 years ago. The knocking came again. Louder this time. "Honey, I know you're in there." Primera vez quedó, grabbing a kitchen knife. The emergency message replayed in my head. "Do not respond to voices." Then my phone buzzed again. Another alert. "Do not trust familiar voices. They are not who they sound like." The knocking turned frantic. "Open the door." The voice glitched. Like multiple voices layered together. Then suddenly, silence. I stood there for what felt like hours. Eventually, the power came back. No more yellets. No more knocking. This morning, I went outside. My neighbor's door was wide open. Inside, everything was normal. Except for one thing. On the wall, written in something dark. It almost worked. I called the police. They said multiple homes reported the same thing. Same message. Same voices. Same outcome. Some people opened their doors. I asked what happened to them. There was a long pause. Then the officer said, "We don't know." I didn't understand. "What do you mean you don't know?" He hesitated. "Because," he said slowly, "they're still inside."
The late night caller.
I moved into a one-bedroom after a messy breakup and got used to the small noises of an old building. Pipes, the radiator, an occasional floorboard complaining. One night around 3:07 a.m., my phone woke me up. Caller ID showed my own number. I thought it was a prank and answered with a shaky hello. Static. Then a voice, like a radio underwater. "I can see you." It didn't say it like a joke. It said it like a verdict. I flipped the lights on and checked every room. Nothing. I called the non-emergency line and a cop came, polite and bored. Checked the locks, the windows, found no sign of entry. I watched the cop's flashlight beam sweep across the living room. When it landed on the bedroom window, I realized the glass was smeared on the inside with a gray film that looked like ash. Even weirder, there were tiny ridges in the smear that looked like fingers. When I stepped closer, the air dropped cold, and the hairs along my arms stood up. I slept on the couch that night with the TV on at full volume. At 3:02 a.m., the TV cut to static for exactly 5 seconds. And when the image returned, the brightness was down and the entire room smelled like old coal. The next morning, my neighbor knocked and asked if I was okay. She said she'd been hearing someone whispering outside her window at odd hours for weeks. And when she swore she saw a pale face pressed to the condensation on her window. A child's face. I moved out. 80s later, before he left, I took one last look back through the living room window. There were small, etching fine handprints on the fogged glass on the inside, like someone had been trying to trap the light from inside my apartment.
You're not the only one who's experienced something strange. Join the Hidden Hour. Send your story to hiddenhourfiles@yahoo.com and become part of the files.